Welcome back to Central Valley Talk. We're learning to function in quite a different society these days because of COVID, the economy, so many different things going on. So we've been looking around for people who are experienced in life to come in and share some of their wisdom, hear some of their background. Our next guest is Ron Sheppard. Ronald does now education and consulting.
Yes.
But you've had quite a career over the years.
I've been blessed. I've been blessed to be an advocate, an administrator, site principal, district manager. So yes, I've been blessed to have a wonderful career.
Way back in the days, you were at UCP there in the Inland Empire?
Yeah, that was down in Palm Desert, and we covered San Bernardino and Riverside counties. Mm-hmm. And we were just a small agency serving families. We had we had a summer camp there. We had lots of parent support groups going, and I really enjoyed the parent support group because I always made it a point for the parents to let's talk about their issue, let's get them out on the table, but now what are we going to do about it?
Right.
That's the most important thing. You can sit here and talk about all you want, but if you don't have a solution, why are we here?
And that got you started on a whole career.
Yeah.
Trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Identifying the problem and finding the solution.
Yes.
Somehow you were pulled towards education.
Well, yeah. In 1991, I took a job here in Fresno with the state of California.
And you moved from down there to up here, your first time?
Yeah. 91. We were living in Crestline, had a wonderful little house up there, but the economy went south, and the state agency in Fresno offered me a job, and I went from my experience of working with adults that have cognitive disabilities. Mm-hmm. However, the position morphed into one that was more education advocacy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I got to know a lot of educators here.
Now, had you already been through college at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you weren't set up yet to be a teacher?
I've never been a teacher.
Oh, okay. You skipped that whole part of the education
yes,
administration.
Yeah, because my journey has been different than most, but when I felt the pull to move to education, instead of getting a teaching credential, I got my counseling credential, and then after that, my administrative credential. Yeah. And but I was with the state for 13 years, and then I also was doing some teaching out at Fresno Pacific, basically in the area of special ed laws and ethics.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet it was.
And in 2004, I went over to Fresno Unified.
Ah. At some point, you become a site principal.
Yes. In 2011, I became principal out at Atticott School.
Oh, yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Atticott School is a small little school. We have about 70 students, all of them medically fragile. It was a very, very fun time. It was a very tough time because those kids have need.
Yeah.
And the medical need always came before the academic need.
But there's a lot of dedicated faculty out there.
We had a wonderful staff, yes.
A lot of good staff out there. Now, somehow you went through all this and you end up retired. Did you retire from that?
Yeah, I retired from Fresno Unified.
But you weren't done, and the society wasn't done with you.
No, I'm not done with society by any means, okay?
You're consulting now.
Yes. Yeah, and...
Got some great slides up there of that, about what you do and stuff.
Yeah. Can we go to that slide on systems thinking?
Systems thinking, all right.
And basically, education can seem to get into like a little hyper hole. But the reality is that education must comply with federal laws.
Yes.
And when we look at education, we look at civil rights. And when we look at civil rights, we look at ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. And because our student base is so diverse, they also have protections under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so education falls under that umbrella. From there, we have general education students, and then from there, we have a student with a disability.
Okay.
Students with disability are more than able to have access to those general education programs, and as well as accommodations for their disabilities. And those accommodations are basically done in what's called a 504 plan.
Okay.
And for those kids who really need more in-depth services, we have special education services. One of the things that I think people get confused about is that special education is not a separate silo. It is a part of the integration into the general ed system.
Okay.
Special education has all the protections under 504, ADA, and 1964 Civil Rights Act. Those things don't go away with that special ed connection. And that's the most confusing part. Because most educators, to no fault of their own, they are trained in the education lingo, education system.
Right.
They didn't go to school to learn about all this
Right.
federal stuff that they really have to adhere to.
So is there any consultants around that could help them learn and understand about that?
Well, I have a couple things. Basically, I have a fee for working with a district, and that's always negotiable. But when I work with parents, I have to keep it at $41 an hour.
So you can work with parents and advocate for those
Yes.
students. Sometimes the school district doesn't know the rules. They're not especially trying to avoid them. They just don't know them.
Yes, and again, it's no fault of the educators if they don't know.
They don't know, yeah.
If they do know, then that's a whole nother issue. And there are other agencies out there, other legal entities, attorneys, federal agencies, that are designed to deal with those. Mine, I'm just a problem solver.
Right.
It's what I've always done, and it's what I enjoy doing the most.
Very good.
Now, I want to give the group a little bit of a economic lesson,
Okay.
if I might, because I charge parents $41 an hour. Out of that, I only get 25, and then even out of that 25, I have to pay all of my expenses.
Your own expenses, yeah.
But that extra $16 is what I have to pay in taxes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and most people don't understand
Right.
that. As a business owner, you have to pay your own taxes.
Yep.
You have to do everything in that way. And so, when I say $41 an hour, yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But I only see 25 of it.
Yeah, and then you're paying your own expenses.
Yeah.
Listen, we're running out of time, but let me say this. If there's a school district, they're not experts, nobody's an expert, but they can find somebody who knows something about it, Ron Sheppard. But if you're a parent and you feel you need somebody to advocate for your kids, a lot of parents don't know what to do except yell and make noise and try to be the squeaky wheel. Ron Sheppard could help you, and it's pretty affordable, $41 an hour.
Yeah.
So if you're a school district and you need help understanding, or you're a parent and you want an advocate for your kid, people can call you.
Yes, they can.
We're up against a time limit, but what else do you want our viewers to know? How do they reach you and stuff?
All right. You can reach me at 559-593-1037. And if I can take 30 seconds to just talk about COVID for a second. COVID is really the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Because it's all new. Becky DeVos, the Secretary of Education to President Trump, has said education will happen. She has also said education with students with disabilities will happen. And so one of the things that I will always ask parents to consider is that balance of safety and restrictive placement. Because when you're looking at a service for a student with a disability, placement is always an overriding issue.
Right.
Because civil rights law says that everything needs to be integrated.
Yep.
And so if things are separated, there has to be a reason for it. The other thing that I think parents need to think about are those kids who are medically fragile. I know that when I look at my days at Atticott, as a principal, right now, I'd be absolutely terrified. Absolutely terrified out of my mind. And it's not because of the kid, it's because of the unknown.
The unknown, right.
And so to me, that is the greatest concern that I think any school district would have.
Let me ask you this. If any of you watching right now, a school district who's terrified out of their mind, who
Yeah.
don't want to have a consult, or a parent, how can they reach you? Is there a website or a phone number?
Well, again, the phone number is 559-593-1037.
We have that up on the screen too.
Okay, and so I always like to start there, and one of the things that when you talk about our local district, Fresno Unified, Bob Nelson there is a wonderful superintendent. He's done a lot of good things, but even he is not in his realm yet because this is also new.
It's all new. Well, listen, we are out of time.
Okay.
Why don't you come back again? Let's talk about this. Something we should be talking about all the time.
Sure.
And this is something we want our viewers. Some viewers may not be watching at this moment. We want to get some of this information in their hands. So we're going to put this interview on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. If you know somebody who ought to be talking to Ron Sheppard, tell them to watch, refer them over to that interview, or call us at Central Valley Talk. We'll put you right in touch with Ron. Is that all right?
All right. Thank you very much.
We'll be back with more Central Valley business right after this.